Hello, everybody. As promised, this is a recording of how to turn a pending IR in Maxient into an unheard case. So, first and foremost, when an IR, a pending IR, is assigned to you, whether that be directly through a pathway or through me, Aaron, or Mike, it's going to show up in your pending IRs, which is going to be this tab here. If you have more than just the one, you'll see a list of them of all your pending IRs. Also with IR numbers, dates, submitted button, submitted dates, who's involved, and who submitted the report. And then over here, you're going to have your actions drop down, where we're primarily going to be focusing on just the create case button. You don't have to worry about create case classic. We're really going to be focusing on the create case action. However, before we get into the cases, two things that we always want to make sure that we do before creating a case. So first, if a case is reassigned to me, there's going to be a little notepad, icon right here next to the IR ID. Um, what you can do is click on that, and any notes or comments that the person who assigned the case to you may have made, they're going to be in there. So I know, for example, a lot of times I'll reassign a case and say, adjudicate for the, meet with the student, adjudicate for this, uh, you know, add notes, close case. So any notes that the reassigner sends you is going to be on that little note button right there. It'll also be in the email ping that you get, but sometimes those emails are hard to find and get lost unless you have the IR number. So definitely want to check that first and foremost. The second thing we're going to want to do is click on the IR ID here to pull up the actual incident report. We always want to read the incident report before before we start creating cases, because this is gonna tell us exactly what we need to do in creating the case, and we want to have a good idea of what's going on. So as you can see up at the top, this is a general FYI. Happened in Housing 5 in Juniper. Happened on the 20th around 12:30 p.m. For the sake of this, I was the one that reported it. And then if you look here, involved parties, Talon Osprey is going to be the alleged in the case with Talon's email address. Scrolling down to the body of the incident report. So for this particular case, just so we know what's going on, it says at 12:30 p.m. on July 20th, 2026, resident Talon Osprey with a Z number was seen ripping down a bulletin board on the first floor of Juniper Hall in Housing 5. Resident Assistant Taylor Swift was alerted of the incident. RA Swift is submitting this incident report for documentation and appropriate follow-up. So now we know that this case, this incident report, is about resident Osprey ripping down bulletin boards and destroying property on the first floor of Juniper. So now we can go in and we can start to create our case. So first step here, obviously, click the drop down for, click on create case, and then we want to hit go. For required fields, you can either scroll all the way down to the residential life area, or you could type it in up top here and it'll populate. When we are selecting a case type, we always want it to be residential life, never residential life care, residential life FYI, residential life RHB, or any of these other options. So we always want to select residential life. For access restricted, we can also do a populate, um, but for access restriction, we want this to be res life. It's always going to be this. This just says in Maxi, like only the res life people have permission to view this case. Once we have both of those filled out, we're going to want to hit continue. Referred by is the next required field, and it's going to be residential life again. So again, you can click on, you can scroll and search it, or you can just start typing and it'll populate. And we want to select residential life. Down here, you're going to see who, the reporter's information. So who reported it, email address, date, time, all that stuff. And then a small blurb about, like the incident description. So this is going to be the full incident description. And then if you want, you could always add some type of incident summary, just kind of summarizing or summing up in a sentence or two what the IR says. It can be helpful, and especially with longer incident reports. Once we've got the referred by field in and everything else seems to check out, we're going to hit save and continue, which will take us to the involved parties page. So, as you can see here, the first and only in this case involved party is Talon Osprey. It comes up with their Z number. We're going to always want to check the role and make sure that the correct role is assigned to the correct person. Our RAs and even students who submit this, they do their best, but there are plenty of times where someone who's alleged will be labeled as a victim or a witness, or someone that's, a victim will be labeled as alleged. So we always want to go in and make sure that the correct role is assigned based on what the incident report says. And then as you can see, their information is populated down here. Now, if you want to add another person, maybe there were two people involved in this, and under the involved parties tab in the incident report, it's only showing one. You just click this box here for add another, and you can either search, pull up the search bar and search for the person by name, Z number, or housing area, or you just fill their information in. Obviously, make sure we we put the role in, and that's how we can add someone to a case as we're creating it. Conversely, there are a lot of times or sometimes that the RAs, although they're instructed to not include themselves or other RAs as involved parties when acting in their RA capacity, will put themselves in as an involved party, to the case. If that's the case, and we see that as we're creating the case, all we're gonna want to do is uncheck this box under add, and when we create the case, it'll pull them off of the involved parties. And the reason we want to do this is because every time someone is listed as an involved party, it creates another case in Maxient for them. So we don't need our RAs listed as involved parties. Their information and what they did should be in the incident report, but not in involved parties. So once this all looks good, we're gonna hit save and continue. For home office, we're going to start typing, or you can scroll residential life and select that. And then for assign to, we're going to start searching for your name, because we're going to be assigning this, you'll be assigning this a case, assigning this case to yourself. So home office residential life, assign to is in this case, in my case, because I'm creating the case, Kevin Shaw. If you want to go in and add an appointment date, appointment time, and appointment location, while you're creating the case, you can. Or once the case is created, you could always go in and add this. While for using our form letters, this information will need to be included in the case, because our pre-hearing notice pulls the information from here into that letter to notify the student of when we're meeting. Another handy tool that you could use here, or you could use once the case is created, is this click for schedules, little clock looking thing. So if you click on that, it'll pull up everyone who's in all the involved parties' schedules, so you can see when people are free. Obviously, Talon Osprey is not a real person. They don't have a class schedule, so it shows that it's not available in this case. Make sure this obviously status is going to be open. And then tags. So tags are something that Steve and the student conduct people have asked that we do a more diligent job in tagging cases, just because as they're looking to run reports and run numbers, it's easier for them to search a tag. A couple ways you can add a tag is you can click on it and you can write you can start typing and see what populates, or if you're not sure, especially in the beginning, once you are not sure what all the tags are, you can just kind of scroll and see what fits best for this case, or for the case that you're inputting. You can't create new tags if it's not all, in there already. You can't edit. So we just want to pick whatever most closely represents the case. If you're not sure, you could always ask, um, or you just list it as a general concern. But for this one, we're going to do disruptive behavior slash conflict because by Talon tearing down the bulletin board is being, they're being disruptive. Once that's completed, we're going to hit next. Adding charges, so there's a couple different ways you could do it. You could add certain charges to everyone involved in the case. You could add charges to only the alleged, or you could add charges to individuals. So let's say there were, three alleged and two of them were doing one thing and one of them was doing another. You're not going to want to assign all charges to alleged because they weren't all doing the same thing. So that's where you would assign them to the individuals. If all the alleged were all doing the same thing, that's when you can click the alleged button to add a charge. So what you're going to want to do here is click on the charge slash issue drop down, scroll to whatever the charge may be. In this case, it's going to be theft slash property damage. You're going to click on it so it comes up in the box. And then you're going to click add to. In this case, we're just going to do alleged because there's only one alleged. And we're going to hit add. Once you hit add, it should populate in the individual's charge. If you want to add more, you could always go in and add, we'll say unauthorized access just for the sake of this. Hit it again, and now it shows that they have multiple charges. If you accidentally add a charge, just hit the X, and it removes it from that individual. Once the charges are added, we can move on. Um, Notes is another section that we really want to emphasize. There's been a lot of cases in the past that don't have any notes, and after our grads or our staff members move on, if we have to go back and look at a case, we are not really sure where it's at or what exactly happened. So, what we're going to be asking of you is as you move through a case, just add notes. So. If you want to add a note, you click add note. Doesn't have to be anything long, or anything like that. You can just say, for example, creating case, um, working to schedule a pre-hearing meeting with the resident. All right, so that's your note. There's a couple different types of ways you could save this. So you could save it as a regular note, which just which just pushes it to that individual's account under the note section. You list it as a ping, and then add a ping recipient down here. So what that would do is it doesn't add the note to their case, but it will inform somebody um, that an action is needed or that you may have a question or whatever it may be. Or you could click both, which will ping somebody and also add the note to that person's, to that individual's case. The other thing that you can do here is the attached to. So if you have a case with multiple parties and it's something, that kind of fits everyone, like created case, worked and scheduled pre-hearing meetings, you can always click all case parties. This will add this one note to every single person in the case. So only do that if it applies to every single person involved in the case. So for this, we're just going to make it a note. We'll have it just shared to this file and we will hit continue. Save and continue. Next are tasks. You're not going to really add tasks when you're creating a case. I like to use tasks personally to keep track of sanctions and that stuff on the back end. But when you're creating a case, you don't really need to worry about this page. So you just hit save and continue. And then that's going to take us to the files page. So obviously your incident report is already going to be included because that's what we're using to create the case. It'll be in the incident report section of the EFC. Um, you can, click to open files here if you want to, click and add files, or you could drag files in to either the upper EFC or the lower EFC, as Tyler was explaining to you all. If you add files to the upper EFC or the case files, that's going to add that file to every single party, involved in the case. If you add it to the lower EFC or just the individual person, it'll upload it to just their case. So we're going to use this if maybe there were some pictures or there was some new information that came about, or documentation, especially pictures, maybe security footage or police body cam footage potentially. So that's where we would add any new files. And then the last thing before I go ahead and save and create the case is what happens if you're in the middle of creating a case and you know your computer cuts out, or you get called to do something urgent, or you accidentally click out of this page. Don't panic. You haven't lost all of your work and everything you've done. So you'll notice, let's say I accidentally click the home button or accidentally click any button for that matter, right? All we're going to want to do is click the home button. We see it's still listed here as a pending IR. We go down to create case and hit go. And then this screen is going to come up. Draft case already exists. Would you like to use the existing draft, or do you want to delete the existing draft and start fresh? So what I would do is click on use the existing draft, and it's going to make you click through everything again and to verify. But as you can see, all the information that we put in this case, as we were creating the case, is populating, and everything looks good. All right, and then once you're on this files page, this is going to be the last tab before you officially create the case. You're going to hit save and create case now, and you'll get this success screen. That's great. If you've already entered an appointment date, time, and location, and you want to just go straight to send letter, you can click here, and it'll take you to our, to our letters page, so you can populate a letter. Or if you want to go in and update something, you could just hit update, and you are in that individual's case, and you kind of tab through and make any adjustments or add notes or whatever it is that you may need. So that is how you create a case from a pending IR. If you have any questions or anything, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself, Mike, or Aaron. We would be happy to help you.